Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another Bibi and Peter Show where we put fun back into English learning. Okay, so as you can hear today, I'm a bit more excited than normal because the topic is what?
Of course.
Keep quiet for a few seconds, Peter. I know, like your infectious energy is dying to come out, right? But remember, you have your English personality on. All right. So basically, Peter and I were debating whether there is something called linguistic identity or a linguistic shift, right? So basically, what this means is that you have different personalities according to the language you speak, right? So
Yeah.
what I don't know. I'm finding it very difficult to grasp this, but apparently Peter is such a nerd about it. It's like such a nerd. He really believes that you have different personalities according to the language you are talking. And it's very difficult for me to understand that because I know Peter, I don't speak Portuguese, and I know Peter's English personality, which is so boring. And I kind of find it very difficult to believe that he is an exciting, adventurous, fun, like charismatic person in Portuguese, but apparently is. So I don't know. Take it away, Peter, and explain this.
Well, how do I recover from that presumptuous introduction? Onslaught.
Come on,
You
Peter,
just took me to the slaughterhouse like a lamb. Well, how do I survive that, baby?
Get your Portuguese personality out. Come on, try. Find it in English.
Well, it's funny because I mean you haven't mentioned that I also have an Afrikaner personality.
Well, you see, that's the problem. You might be speaking English, but you have the Afrikaner. No, I have very nice Afrikaner friends. I'm not going to say anything bad about the Afrikaners. I'm sorry, Peter. You're all on your own. I don't know. I think you just have probably a very dry personality because you speak English.
No. Actually, away from the podcast and in person, people I think they find me probably more refreshing. I would say.
Wow, really?
But
do you speak Portuguese to them or English?
English, no English. But the fact of the matter is that we really do behave and think differently when we have the Sapir-Whorf theory or thesis.
The what? Sorry, what theory?
The Sapir-Whorf theory. It's a linguistic determination. I mean, those the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, they can also be called.
My God, Peter, can you start talking proper English? This is an English learning platform. Please.
Yes. Let me explain it, Bibi. Calm down, Bibi. Let me explain. Calm down. Get off your horses. Having your knickers in a knot. So what I'm trying to get to is that we do have a shift in who we are based upon the language set. I mean, you can literally observe someone speaking one language, and you'll see that their facial expression and their body language changes from one thing to another because
I don't believe you. I honestly
it does happen because the emotional let me explain to you, Bibi.
Okay.
Let me explain to you, Bibi. I'm going to explain to you why the reason we form and mold and develop our personalities based upon the interactions with people, right? And our environment. That can be voluntary and involuntary. Wait, okay.
Very boring.
All right, Bibi. Let's just focus on the subject at hand. So if you have one kind of interaction and you have one kind of environment in one language and a completely different interaction in the other, you will adapt or you will develop your personality differently. Okay, based on that. And that's a theory of it.
How does this help language learners? How does having a linguistic identity in a different language help them? Like, what are they taking away from what you're saying right now? Is that like they're going to be more, they're going to be more boring? Like a Spanish speaker is more boring in English, or what are you saying?
I think it's you know what when I'm having my coaching sessions many times and people come to me that's kind of like in this gridlock, you know, they tell me when they're in a social, you know, they've learned the language, they've gone through all the tests and courses, but they still not able to have that social connection. So they still feel completely inadequate, and it's almost like they're running to a wall when they're having an actual person in front of them.
Well, that happens to me. That happens to me in Spanish.
Yeah,
really does.
So,
like, you know,
and that actually you have a persona that usually happens with Bibi. Usually it happens with journalists, doctors, engineers, analysts. These are the personas that usually feel that feels more pressured, more inadequate, because they are perfectionistic, analytical professions.
Oh my God!
And it's
why,
and they have a hard time, translating that perfectionism into the new language. Because remember, if you have a new language, almost like a child.
That happens to me. I'm not proud of it, but it happens to me. It's like I don't want to speak Spanish to people, and when I try to speak to someone and I can't, I get very embarrassed. It's like I feel very stupid. Like I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe. Like I'm just gonna keep quiet. Like
it's because you're already an authority in communication in English, and you have a certain demand over language, so that gives you power.
Right.
So you obviously, when you speak in Spanish, you feel impotent. And then that
I feel
impotence,
I feel stupid.
Exactly. So you don't know how to deal with the impotence. But then
I come across as being very antisocial and very almost very snobbish, which is not my personality, right? Yeah. But if someone starts laughing at the way I'm saying a word in Spanish, it's like I just shut off. I don't want to talk. I don't want to say anything in Spanish. And it's like, I hate this language. Like, I don't want to talk it. Yeah.
But that's kind of like you have your Bibi adult, the perfectionist in English, kind of scolding the Spanish child, which is still learning. So it's kind of like your inner child, because Spanish is still something new and it's still something that's developing, and it's not even in its teenager stage. So you have to treat it in a very careful way. You have to treat your Spanish as if you're treating a child. And you need to be very careful in criticizing and putting it down. And I mean, you cannot put a lot of pressure on a child being perfectionistic. I mean, the child will just break.
Of course, yeah. They're just throw in the towel, right? Throw in the towel means like to basically give up. My God, Peter, that's what happens. I basically just had epiphany. We were laughing, and I was making a lot of fun of you about this, but it's true. Like, you just basically called me out on what I feel when I speak Spanish. So what are you saying? What is the advice that you would give language learners from this? Like, having a different personality. Normally it's all fun and jokes, you know, like I'm so much more cooler in like English speaking, or I'm much more bubbly or much more social, as opposed to my Spanish. It's like, oh dear God, you know, I'm just using it just to communicate very basic things, and I don't feel I'm not a happy person when I'm doing it. So what is the advice here?
Well, don't try to copy and paste your personality into another language. Make sure that you go on a route of discovery. How do you want to be in the other language, and how do you want to direct your personality in that other language? And if you want something really practical, I would say that you should kind of have a dialogue. You can even write it down, or have kind of like a sit down with yourself where you have a dialogue between your, this is just a psychological tool, where you have a conversation between your native tongue self and, the persona that is learning the new language, like your Spanish persona.
Wait, hold on. Are you trying to tell me that I should talk to myself like a crazy person and say, talk to my inner child and say, Bibi, you can't, what? No, Peter, are you serious right now?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It does help you to kind of externalize some issues, underlying issues that you've been having. And it's almost like you're listening to that child that you have kind of silenced for so long. And that child feels scolded and hurt.
So basically, it's like I should be telling myself, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, it's not your mother tongue. Like, take it easy.
And discover your inner child. Play with the language. Be ready to play with the language. Connection before perfection. Go to the mud.
Play with the language.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get dirty. Play in the mud. Children needs to play.
So what are you saying by playing the mud? Like, have conversations in language you're learning, even though you know you're not a perfectionist at it. Like, don't be afraid of
ridicule. Don't be afraid of ridicule. Don't be afraid of playing around. Don't be afraid of don't be afraid of joking. Yeah. Just make it as a game. Just playing around, smile, nod it off. Small little words, small little steps.
But I think also in closing, that's where also your teacher comes about, and that's why being a good teacher is so important, because you can really make or break someone learning a language by the way that you perceive or the way that you react to their learning. Like, if you're going to laugh at them saying a word, that's completely want them to throw in the towel, right?
Yeah.
So it's like how you would treat a child. Even though we are adults learning a language, we need to revert back to childhood when we learn it.
We have to.
Quite interesting.
Exactly. That's exactly that. That's the psychology behind it. And if you want to read more about it, you can go into cognitive differentiation. There's a lot of reading about it, guys. And it's always interesting to read up the psychological effects of language learning, as they are extremely deep. And they give you a great perspective on what's happening with that, with your language developing process and stage and so on. So I would really encourage you, go out and read about it.
So Peter, like, just to wrap up on a lighter note, are you really more exciting in Portuguese? Like, is there a fun side to Peter? Really? Do you have a different linguistic identity in Portuguese?
I like to think of myself as being exciting in all the languages that I speak, but I think that specifically with Portuguese, I am definitely more bubbly and more graphic. I would say, like, I think I definitely use my hands more in Portuguese.
So you're more expressive. You actually fun and exciting. Who knew it would be possible? My God, yeah. Who knew?
Right, it's a wrap, baby. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Such a good sport, Peter. Thank you for taking it on the chin. Yeah, like handling being a good sport with all the insults that I hurled at you. Yeah, it was for the benefit of the listeners. Always for the benefit of the listeners. Yeah.
I take all the shots and the hits for the listeners.
Well, honestly, it was a good chat. Yeah. Thank you for the enlightening conversation. Yeah.
Awesome, Bibi. And we'll see you guys soon again for another episode. And have a great time. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.